doing here is we're just striking an oversight that prevents our magistrates from having to go through training, which the training in general sounds like a good idea, but it includes language that they would have to undergo sensitivity to gender bias and cultural, racial, and sexual issues. We should not be mandating this on our magistrates. I think that's pretty common sense for our platform. It should be a no-brainer. We should just strike that from the section.
Mr. Caskey is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ms. Cromer, before we broke in a recess, I recall in our discussion, and you didn't want to do it, you never did it, but you had to pull the woman card or the female card. You were so offended that my questions were going to the heart of the matter that you felt, presumably, so attacked based on your gender that you needed to pull this magic card.
Mr. Caskey, I don't have gender. Gender is a mental disorder, and I assure you I am all woman.
All right. Congratulations.
I know you don't know what a woman is, but here I am. Do it. What else you got?
I'm not really sure what to do with that.
I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't.
Well, again, I appreciate your fantasies, but I'm here to talk about the law, Ms. Cromer.
I'm sorry.
And that may be something that you failed to contemplate in your responses here, that perhaps you'd be asked questions and your criticisms wouldn't be lodged on the basis of your gender, but rather on the ignorance of the proposition. And so as I look at this particular one, it seems
Mr.
at
Speaker,
least...
I call point of order of decorum. He is saying that I have a mental disorder by associating me with gender. I do not have a gender. I have a sex, and it is female. Gender dysphoria is a mental illness. I do not have gender dysphoria. I am a female. Thank you.
Ms. Cromer, you've made a point of order. I will tell you, it sounds like you're giving as good as you were getting from Mr. Caskey. If that did occur, I missed that part of it. We know our rules of civility. We keep dancing around them. Mr. Caskey's trying to ask you a question. You can choose to answer it or not, but let's focus on the...
We should stay on the focus at hand. So if you have a question regarding this
Ma'am,
issue,
let me just finish ruling. I know I can go on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
If you will have, Mr. Caskey is, I believe at this point, focusing on the matter at hand. If you will allow Mr. Caskey to ask his question, then you will have a chance to respond.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not trying to talk about Ms. Cromer's mental disorders. I'm trying to talk about this bill, which at the very least seems ironic that someone would pull a gender bias card and then say, we don't need that training. And so my question, Ms. Cromer, is, do you see the irony in what you're doing?
Well, I thought that you were an attorney and you would understand, a Republican attorney. I thought you would understand the difference of sensitivity and gender bias and cultural and racial sexual issues. What we're talking about here is requiring our magistrates that are going to rule to basically take a bias training that's going to make them focus on the same thing that they're told not to focus on.
Tell me more.
Listen, if you want to vote to keep this kind of training in for the magistrates, you can vote for that. I'm simply saying this is not what we should be training our magistrates or paying for our magistrates to do.
All right, let me ask again. Ms. Cromer, you earlier, before we recessed, pulled the woman card. Presumably, you don't want to call that gender. I don't know what you do with it. You want to say sex. I don't know. I've never seen anybody pull out a woman card in this chamber. I'm glad you have one. But again, do you see the irony in what you said from this well just 20 some odd minutes ago, and now standing here saying that the judicial officers of this state don't need the sort of training that would have prevented, ostensibly, the need for you to raise such an important card?
Well, I will say the irony that you are suggesting you know what a woman is or how to treat a woman. I think those are two different things that you're trying to address, but what I'm trying to address is the biasness that they're trying to force on our magistrates. I can't help your issues, but we can have a talk offline as far as if you don't know what a woman is or how to treat one.
All right. I'm trying to again, understand the amendment that you've put forward, and instead you've lodged a number of insults yet again. Again, I'm trying to confine my remarks exclusively to the amendment before us and the development of those. And so I would ask you, perhaps maybe you can illuminate for us the folks in the judicial system that you talked to in the development of this amendment. Did you talk to any judges at all?
So should I talk to judges and see if they have bias? Because I think that that's what justice is supposed to be blind. If we have to have that kind of talk with our justices and say that you should be serving the people blindly, then that's a different conversation. As a lawyer legislator who goes before the judges that you appoint, you should have more insight to that than anyone. But I will say that this, at first glance, it does. I'll give it to you. It sounds great what they're trying to achieve here. But if you go into the annual domestic violence training, and that seems reasonable, but if you dig it a little deeper, it goes much more to that about critical social justice ideologies creeping into the judicial system. If you're in favor for that, like I said, don't support my amendment.
Okay. And last question. In the course of your several secret hearings and public events, have you ever attended a judicial proceeding involving domestic violence? Like even one?
Yes, I have actually.
How many? Where?
Does it matter? I mean,
yes.